I'm honored, first of all, to be here. I love you, Will. You are my brother. Like you said, we've not just to say that we've known each other for 23 years. Just doesn't really even do it service. You have been my brother and friend for that entire time. I'm honored to be part of your life and honored to support what you're doing here and what you've always been doing with Contraband Wagon. And so, just thanks for having me. I'm really honored to be here.
Thank you so much, brother. And the honor is also mine. So I'm so glad to have you here as a guest for a second time.
Yeah.
And you actually reached out to me, I feel like a few months ago was the first time. And you were like, listen, I got to get back on there. I got to get back on the show. I got to talk about what's going on. And so, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what inspired you to try to get back on the show for a second appearance, and you know what that was like for you?
Yeah. So there's this is not scripted here, so it's going to be there's a lot to it. So there's I think the first thing that comes to mind, right? Like, why are we talking about this on the Contraband Wagon? Um, and and I want to talk about many things, even based on what your introduction. Okay, um, I want to talk about the genocide, and I want to talk about the occupation and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. And I don't want to talk about it as an Israeli Palestinian conflict, because to call it a conflict, I think undermines what has been happening since 1947, essentially, to the Palestinian people by who are now Israeli government with the help of other foreign powers, throughout time. So I don't want to get into a history lesson though, but I do not call it a conflict. There is very clearly an occupying power. There are Palestinians who live inside the state of Israel who do not have full equal status in Israeli society, and then you have the Palestinians who are in the West Bank and in Gaza, those who have not been killed and murdered by the Israeli government, and that's not a conflict between two people. And I think that it's important to note that how we frame it is important, and it's appropriate to talk about it here on the Contraband Wagon because at the heart of this genocide, at the heart of Israeli occupation of Palestinians, is race. It is absolutely 100% race. And so apart from just wanting to talk to you, my brother, about this and getting your insight, I wanted to have a real conversation because I think it's relevant to what you're doing here. And even Palestinian Americans here in America have faced discrimination based upon their being Palestinian, their views as Palestinians, their views about what's happening in Gaza, which is very clearly a genocide. It's very clearly an ethnic cleansing, and there's no denying that the West Bank and Gaza have been occupied territories of Israel. So so that's what really brought me here, and yeah, so I'll kind of like just push pause right there, and maybe you can jump in with what comes up for you or questions you have, and we can go from there.
Yeah, no, that's a great introduction. And I'm so glad you said that about framing, because that has been, yeah, and we've seen for months, this gaslighting media narrative about what's going on. I only call it the Israeli Palestinian conflict because that's how a lot of people came to understand
Hmm.
what you're talking about, right? But I agree with you in terms of that was, obviously constructed, right? A narrative that was constructed.
100%.
And it became more clear than ever when, we're all on social media, we're seeing dead bodies of children like day after day, people burning alive, tanks running over people, crushing them, like just um, all kinds of manner of horrific uh, evil. against Palestinians, perpetrated by Israel and supported by the United States of America, even. And yeah, it was a crazy time, and it still is. So yeah, I mean,
I can,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I can jump in if you want.
Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you for saying that about framing. And I jumped on it because I thought it was a great opportunity to talk about framing, because that's the way that um, we Americans, you, me, have come to understand what do we call what's happening over there, and words matter. And you know the foundation of Israel isn't just a home for Jews to have self-determination. It's to have Jewish supremacy in that land over anyone else. And when we say anyone else, we're talking about Palestinians. And so, you know, the Palestinians who live there, including my grandparents, my grandparents are from Haifa. And in 1948, or actually it was 1947, um, Israel, which is really, it's interesting. They did the same thing they did to the residents of Gaza. They dropped pamphlets everywhere. You better get out, because if you don't get out, we're coming in and you're probably going to die. So my grandfather fled on foot from Haifa to southern Lebanon, established himself there. He had a business, came back, got his family, my grandmother, my father wasn't born yet, and walked from Haifa to near Sidon, Saida, which is in southern Lebanon. And he didn't voluntarily just leave. Just one day decides, hey, I don't want this home anymore. I'm just going to get up and move and put my family through this hardship and just walk away. And had he not done that, perhaps my father would not have born. I wouldn't have been born. I wouldn't even be here. Um, that wasn't, certainly it was a choice, and the choice was death, right, or to preserve your life and that of your family. That wasn't a choice done voluntarily. That isn't a conflict. That doesn't represent a conflict between two people. That represents an outside entity coming into a land that is not theirs, homes that aren't theirs, with the backing of with European money behind it and European military power to support them, and saying, "Hey, we're coming in," and forcing my family and other Palestinians to leave. That's an invasion. That's not a conflict between two people. That is an ethnic cleansing. Those who were killed in mass, that was a genocide, just like in Gaza. And they've done, and what was emotionally really taxing was to see what was happening in Gaza, to even see the same tactics used from 70, 80 years ago. And then to tell the world it's a conflict between Israel and Hamas, or Israel and the Palestinian people, because the Palestinians, they're not going anywhere. And so because they refuse to leave their homes, it's considered a conflict. But that word choice is not a word choice chosen by Palestinians. Um, the fact of the matter is that the foundation of Israel is built upon Zionism, which is a colonialist movement that puts Jewish supremacy above all else. Um, and words like conflict, um, those things matter to the Zionist entity, because when it's a conflict between two people, you're trying to resolve it between, I imagine sometimes, what are the assumptions that I think of when I hear the word conflict? I tend to think of an equal playing field between two people who are disagreeing over something that they're both claiming right to, not someone who's living in their home and someone from Europe mostly, telling them, "Hey, I have an ancestral right. You better get out of here and respect my ancestral right." Um, and now all of a sudden it becomes a conflict because the Palestinians don't want to leave, and they're not going to leave, and they're going to return just like they have always done. So it's real important to me, and I'm that when we talk about this, we talk about how it's framed, and that we don't take it, and that we don't take these word choices and the way that it is framed in Western media. We don't take it for granted, because all of it, I believe, is by design.
Oh,
Yeah, it's by
100% is by
design.
design.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
right.
one thing that you kind of made me think about there is just the parallels to the system of white supremacy that we operate under here in the United States. Narrative crafting, narratives from old coming back again, right? Like um, talking about immigrants and poisoning the blood of the nation, and like all of these old racist, bigoted phraseologies and mythologies are coming back, right? And that's, you hear everyone talking all the time these days, being like, what year is it? I thought it was 2025, blah blah blah. I mean, I think we're a little bit past that now. Hopefully people are like waking up to the reality that this is 2025 and civil rights are being attacked. All of the gains from the civil rights era are being systematically wiped out. And so, yeah, like um, that kind of generational narrative crafting to maintain supremacy, like you said, is something that I really see is parallel over there and over here in the States. Thanks for watching. For access to the full length conversation and all of the 2 hour long unedited conversations that I've had on race, click the support link in the description below. Thanks for your support, and see you next time.